Welcome to this audio descriptive guide to John Cass's statue. This is one of 3 audio descriptions available at the Guildhall as part of the City of London Corporation's Revealing the City's Past project. They will each take about 5 minutes to listen to. I am Elaine Lillian Joseph, a black woman born in Birmingham with parents hailing from Jamaica and St. Kitts in the Caribbean. I am in a building known as the Guildhall, which is the town hall for the City of London, the UK's ancient and foremost financial district, also known as the Square Mile, or simply the City, with a special ceremonial status different to London's 32 municipal boroughs. The current Guildhall dates from 1411. It's thought there has been a municipal building here since the 12th century. During the Roman occupation of Britain, the site was the location of an amphitheatre, the remains of which can still be seen today. The Guildhall is linked to the enslavement of Africans because it was the site of the trial involving the perpetrators of the infamous Zong massacre of 1781, when 130 enslaved Africans were thrown overboard from the ship, the Zong, because the crew claimed they had run out of water after a series of navigational errors. The ship's owners then made an insurance claim for the value of the enslaved Africans who had been thrown into the Atlantic Ocean, but the underwriters refused to pay. In the resulting court case, the trial jury verdict was at first that the murder of the Africans was legal because they were mere chattel, but this was overturned on appeal. There are 2 statues in the Guildhall of persons associated with the Transatlantic Trade in enslaved Africans: William Beckford, twice Lord Mayor of the City of London, and John Cass, an administrator of the Royal African Company. I am facing the life-sized dark-lead statue of John Cass, which occupies a corner in the south ambulatory, close to the Great Hall. To its left is a set of double doors, and to its immediate right is a glass balustrade, below which is the crypt. The figure has been polished and contrasts with the pale stone walls and flagstones. It stands on a low stone pedestal, on which a plaque reads, Sir John Cass, 1661 to 1718, Sheriff, Alderman, and MP for the City of London, by Louis-Francois Roubliac, on loan from the John Cass Foundation. A merchant and alderman, John Cass built on his family's fortune through large investments in the Royal African Company, who traded in enslaved Africans as well as gold, silver, and ivory. Cass used some of this wealth to found a charity that continues to this day, to further the education of young people in London. The statue was commissioned in 1751. In 2021, the Sir John Cass Foundation changed its name to the Portal Trust, part of its work to acknowledge and move away from its founders' associations with the British Atlantic trade in enslaved Africans. Dressed in the official robes of an 18th century alderman, Cass is in mid-stride, right foot leading, giving a sense of motion to his pose. However, his expression distinctly lacks animation, and his lips are closed. Cass wears a shoulder-length wig of ringleted hair, a common fashion at the time, indicating wealth and status. His ankle-length sheriff's cape is lined with fur. There's a jabot, a length of lace attached to the front of his neckband, that hangs in knotted loops over his chest. He has knee breeches, stockings, and pointed shoes with buckles. He's holding up the tail of his cape with his right hand, the voluminous mass of material swirling. His left hand rests on his hip while also pulling back his cape, revealing a long brocade coat and waistcoat that reaches his knees. It's open, but for 3 buttons closed over his bulging belly. As he strides vigorously forward, we can imagine the rustle of his cape against his coats and the weight of his many layers that herald him as a mature man of substance. His official robes indicate his wealth, but do not reveal the extent he amassed over his lifetime, or its origin. In his role as one of the Royal African Company's assistants, equivalent to being on a board of directors today, Cass undertook active management of the company's profits from its London base. At the time of recording this audio guide, historical records about transatlantic enslavement indicate that there were 57 voyages linked to the Royal African Company during Cass's tenure, which transported 14,646 enslaved African captives to the Americas. 2,427 did not survive the journey. This statue began its life in a high first-floor niche on the exterior of the Sir John Cass Primary School, now Port Solcombe School, in the East End. The elevated position meant that the statue's gaze fell on generations of pupils, parents, and teachers, and they in turn would have to look up to view the statue, enforcing their awe. In 1869, it was moved to a new school building in Drury Street. In 1980, it was carefully restored and arrived here, where it's been on loan ever since. In 2001, on the 250th anniversary of the then Sir John Cass Foundation, many fiberglass replicas were commissioned and installed on the front of universities and schools across London. In 2020, following the creation of the Commission for Diversity in the Public Realm and the increased attention on public statutory as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement, all of these replicas were taken down. So over the years, this original statue has multiplied before being reduced, as details of Cass's involvement in the trading in enslaved Africans has become more widely known, diminishing his legacy. The City of London Corporation's members voted in January 2021 to remove 2 statues in its medieval Guildhall. This statue of John Cass and one of William Beckford, a former Lord Mayor of the City of London who enslaved Africans in Jamaica. However, this decision to remove the statues was reversed in October of the same year after the government's announcement of its Retain and Explain policy. And the city then embarked upon a reinterpretation project that would involve the attachment of explanatory plaques to the statues along with online resources. One final detail draws my attention. Poking out from a pocket at his left hip is the handle of a dagger. A seemingly innocuous accessory, it nevertheless hints at the violence of his involvement in the fate of thousands of African people. I think of Cass exchanging letters with slave ships' captains and the various other agents of enslavement involved in this appalling and inhumane trade. I wonder, did he ever consider the number of deaths on any given voyage as more than statistics inscribed on sheets of paper to sum up the Royal African Company's profits and losses? Moreover, did he ever think about the causes of deaths on board, often as a result of diseases and the brutal suppression of rebellions? As Cass steps forward, I think about how this memorialization of him sidesteps the source of his wealth, which was from the exploitation of human labour and natural resources. But the present position of his statue affords us a closer inspection than his previously elevated positions could have ever allowed. Now, he's a similar height to me. I can size him up and his legacy, eye to eye. There is more information available online via a QR code. This is located on the bottom right of the plaque.